The rain had a strange way of falling that night, soft enough to whisper, yet heavy enough to remind the lonely of everything missing in their lives. Through the glass walls of the Silver Garden, one of New York's most luxurious rooftop restaurants, a man sat alone by the window, his reflection fading in and out with every flash of lightning. His name was Ethan Cole, a billionaire who had built empires from nothing but broken dreams and sleepless nights. Tonight, however, he wasn't thinking about his companies, his wealth, or his next big deal. He was waiting for someone he thought might bring warmth back into a life that had long gone cold. Ethan checked his watch again. 7:45 p.m. She was late. His date, a woman he'd met through mutual acquaintances, beautiful, elegant, and perfectly suited to the world he lived in. The restaurant's soft piano music mingled with the sound of the rain, and every minute that passed made him feel more foolish for believing this evening might change something inside him. As he looked out into the dark city below, he wondered, was this what loneliness looked like at the top? The world bowed to his name, yet no one truly waited for him. Not the way he was waiting right now. Before the story unfolds further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the magic of unexpected encounters, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Because sometimes, one story can change how we see people and ourselves. Just then, something outside caught Ethan's attention. Through the rain-streaked glass, he saw a woman huddled under the restaurant's awning. She wasn't dressed for the place. No heels, no umbrella, no coat. Just a worn sweater, soaked through from the storm, and a child, a little girl, no older than 6, clinging to her mother's leg. The woman looked exhausted, her face pale from hunger and cold. She seemed to hesitate before stepping inside, her eyes darting nervously toward the host's desk. Ethan watched as she approached the counter. The host, confused, asked her something, and the woman's lips trembled as she spoke. From his table, Ethan couldn't hear her words, but he could read her face. Shame, desperation, and the quiet strength of a mother trying to protect her child. The host frowned, shook his head, and pointed toward the door. The woman nodded quickly, clutching her daughter's hand, ready to leave. Something in Ethan's chest shifted. Without thinking, he stood up and walked toward them. The woman froze as he approached. Tall, sharply dressed in a charcoal suit, his presence almost intimidating against her fragile form. Her eyes widened, and she whispered, "I'm sorry, sir, we were just leaving." But Ethan didn't speak. He looked at the little girl's thin face, her small hands trembling as she tried to hide behind her mother. Then he turned to the host and said quietly, "They're with me." Within moments, the staff, trained to obey, guided them to a table. The woman tried to protest, but Ethan simply gestured for her to sit. When the food arrived, she stared at it in disbelief, tears filling her eyes before she whispered a shaky thank you. The rain outside continued to pour, blurring the city lights into a soft watercolor of loneliness and hope. As they ate, Ethan learned that her name was Grace Miller, and her daughter was Lily. Grace had once worked as a nurse, but life had not been kind to her. Her husband had died 2 years ago in a car accident, leaving behind debts she never knew existed. She had tried to survive, taking small jobs, cleaning offices, doing anything to keep her daughter fed. But recently, she had lost even that. Tonight, she had come to the restaurant not to eat, but to ask for leftover food, for her daughter. Ethan listened silently, something breaking deep inside him. He had spent years building walls so high that nothing human could touch him. But Grace's voice, trembling yet filled with quiet courage, broke through every one of. When she realized he was the Ethan Cole, the billionaire whose name everyone knew, she looked even more embarrassed. "I didn't mean to intrude on your evening," she said softly. "We'll go once Lily finishes." But Ethan only shook his head. "You're not intruding. Maybe you're exactly who I was meant to meet tonight." The word surprised even him. He had come expecting a perfect evening with a woman who matched his world. But destiny, it seemed, had other plans. Over the next hour, something extraordinary happened. The billionaire and the homeless mother spoke as if they had known each other for years. She told him about her struggles, about the nights she'd sat awake wondering how to keep her daughter warm, about the jobs that disappeared when she needed them most. And Ethan found himself opening up in return, something he hadn't done in years. He told her how success had taken everything from him, his peace, his relationships, his ability to trust anyone without questioning their motives. "Everyone around me wants something," he admitted quietly. "Money, power, fame. But no one ever asks if I'm happy." Grace looked at him with the kind of empathy money could never buy. "Maybe happiness isn't something you find," she said gently. "Maybe it's something you give." Her words lingered, and in that moment Ethan realized how empty his life had become, filled with riches but starved of meaning. When the dinner ended, he insisted on driving them home. Grace refused at first, but when Lily shivered from the cold, she accepted. Their home turned out to be a small, rundown apartment in the corner of a neighborhood Ethan hadn't driven through in years. It shocked him. The peeling walls, the dim lights, the sense of quiet despair that hung in the air. Before leaving, Ethan handed Grace his card. "Come to my office tomorrow," he said softly. "I might have something for you." She stared at the card like it was a lifeline. "I don't want charity," she whispered. "It's not charity," Ethan replied. "It's a second chance. For both of us." The next morning, Grace arrived at his office, nervous but determined. Ethan greeted her warmly and introduced her to his team. "This is Grace Miller," he said. "She'll be working with us from today, as my personal assistant." His staff exchanged surprised glances, but no one dared question him. Grace, overwhelmed, tried to protest again, but Ethan smiled. "You said happiness is something you give. You gave me that last night. Let me give something back." Days turned into weeks. Grace proved to be extraordinary, intelligent, kind, and unafraid to speak her mind. Lily became a regular visitor at the office, often drawing little pictures for Ethan that he kept on his desk. Slowly, his life began to change. He laughed again. He smiled without pretending. He found himself looking forward to mornings, to simple conversations, to the warmth that came from something real. But the world noticed. Rumors spread. The billionaire had fallen for his assistant. The tabloids wrote cruel stories, painting Grace as a gold digger. She was humiliated and nearly quit, but Ethan stopped her. "I don't care what they say," he told her. "They've never known what love looks like when it's pure." And indeed, what began as gratitude slowly turned into something deeper. Ethan found himself falling for her. Not for her beauty, but for her strength, her heart, the way she saw the world through compassion instead of ambition. Grace, too, began to see beyond the billionaire's armor. She saw the man, lonely, wounded, and quietly yearning for meaning. Months later, Ethan invited her and Lily back to the Silver Garden. The same table, the same rain outside. But this time, it wasn't loneliness that filled the air. It was peace. He told her, "That night, I thought I was waiting for a date who never came. But maybe destiny just wanted me to find the right person, not the one I was expecting." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "Maybe we were both waiting," she whispered. That evening, Ethan made a silent promise to use his wealth not just for profit, but for people like Grace. He started a foundation in her name, offering jobs and homes to struggling single parents. Grace helped him run it, and together they began rewriting stories of hope, dignity, and second chances. 1 year later, at the foundation's opening ceremony, Ethan looked at the crowd, hundreds of families smiling, children laughing, and then at Grace and Lily standing beside him. He realized that this was what happiness felt like. Not the applause, not the headlines, but the quiet knowledge that he had finally done something good. Life didn't give him the evening he planned. It gave him something far greater. Months later, a journalist asked him during an interview, "Mr. Cole, do you believe in fate?" Ethan smiled. "I didn't," he said softly. "Until the night a hungry mother walked into my life and showed me that destiny doesn't always send what we want. Sometimes it sends exactly what we need." And somewhere in that memory of rain, of tears, of unexpected kindness, he found the kind of love that no amount of money could ever buy. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your one click helps spread kindness, hope, and faith in humanity. And before we end, tell us in the comments, do you believe that destiny can bring the right people into your life at the most unexpected moment? Because sometimes a missed date is just the universe's way of making sure you meet your miracle instead.